Welcome back. Let's get into your market picture now. Asian markets tumbled this morning on growing concerns about emerging market economies, adding to the uncertainty that has been stoked by Donald Trump's trade rows with both China and Canada. And after Turkey and Argentina's recent headline-making problems, South Africa became the latest country to spark panic on Tuesday, with data showing a plunge into a recession for the one-time economic startlet. The news sent the rand plunging in a similar way to the Argentine peso and Turkish lira in recent weeks. Observers increasingly fearful that the problems could spread to other emerging market countries and possibly spill over into emerging economies as well. Tokyo's Nikkei falling off 0.5% to 22,580 points, while the Hang Seng in Hong Kong collapsed 2.3% to 27,331. The Shanghai Composite also falling a whopping 1.7% to close off the day at 2,704. U.S. stocks fell on Tuesday as trade concerns lingered and declines in Facebook and Nike shares weighed on Wall Street's major indices. Data did, however, show that U.S. manufacturing activity accelerated in August, which kept losses in check. Amazon also hit the $1 trillion valuation mark, joining Apple, who reached that mark last month. The Dow Jones Industrial slipped to 25,952 points, with the S&P 500 losing almost 0.2% to finish trade at 2,896. The Nasdaq Composite dropping 0.25%, hitting 8,091 at close. While that is the market picture across Europe and Asia, that filtering through into the local market, and the rand still continuing to find itself in the doldrums. A big hit today as well, 15 rand 58 cents plus minus for the South African rand. Let's unpack how the local and European markets are faring. Well, as you can tell there, the market picture is pretty much doom and gloom. Makwe Masilela from Makwe Fund Managers joins me now as we unpack the markets. Makwe, thank you so much for your time. I suppose let's kick things off with MTN. It just goes from bad to worse. 8.1 billion on one day, that's last Thursday, to yesterday another 2 billion now because of taxes. The company's pretty much losing its entire market value in those days and losing 33%. In its share price.
Very disturbing. You know, if you take all those numbers, including what happened with the fine that they paid less than 2 years back of 1 billion, you're talking plus minus 11 billion. That's if they managed to get that 8.1 and the 2 billion that they spoke about yesterday. And the company to think that, you know, this time in 2014, it was worth almost, the share price was around 247, today it's almost 75. That tells you, do your math, it's down almost 70%. Yeah. Year to date, it's almost down 45%. But I think it's more a reflection of Nigeria as a country. Yeah. Do you really want to do business there? You know, and as well, MTN, we know that at some point, what happened 2 years back, they said no, the claims were not true, but ultimately they admitted. So I think there's still a story there. So we are not saying, we're not sure as yet who's right or who's wrong, but so far it's not looking okay at all, and it will continue to discourage anyone who wants to go and do business that side. Yeah,
you talk about a story that where they needed to end up paying about a third with regards to the unregistered SIM cards that the Nigerian authorities felt they had, but you see issue after issue, and yes, you say it's a picture of how Nigeria looks, but it just seems like the entity in itself keeps flouting some sort of law. Is it still a good business?
Generally, it is out of Nigeria. They can still make good money in other countries. And also, if they move away from making money from voice, they just have to move with the times. Data, we thought people will make money out of data, but we see everyone is saying data must go down, so it's becoming cheaper. So they need to get more innovative, live streaming, stuff like that. But generally, as a telecommunication business, it still looks okay. And you are right, for Nigeria to say things about them, they know that MTN itself is not that clean. Hence, they managed to find them 2 years back.
Do you think they'll leave Nigeria?
It's a very lucrative market for them. I don't think they'll just walk away. But if a push comes to shove, then unfortunately they don't have much of a choice. But for now, they'll try to make sure that they can sort out issues, because it's still a very good market, and not just only for MTN, but for most businesses. The likes of ShopRite, they can still make good money, only if you get it right.
Yeah. At the same time, we had the rand. That falls right back through to the mark we saw when the Turkish lira had collapsed. We going right back to 15 rand and 58 cents or so against the US dollar. That weakness obviously stemming from South Africa's GDP number, but there is more to it, isn't there?
More to it. Think about it. It all started on Monday when we saw the inflation numbers coming out of Turkey not being okay, when we saw Argentina itself coming with this emergency austerity that they need to start putting taxes on exports, making sure that they cut the budget. So generally, the emerging market was not looking okay. But one has to emphasize that the US dollar itself, it was just doing okay. And in the sense that people were not too happy, or there's still tension when it comes to international trade. What do? You look for safe haven. And unfortunately, this time gold could not feature as a safe haven. US treasuries were the ones which were in demand. And for you to be able to buy those treasuries, then you need the US dollars.
Yeah.
And for the fact that we know that interest rates will continue to go up, even though Donald at some point was not too happy, but we saw that the guys, when they had their meeting at Jackson Hole, they emphasized that, you know what, if data allows, we'll continue to increase interest rate that side. It continued to make the dollar attractive. So with that as well, and unfortunately with emerging market woes, unfortunately the rand had to face what it faced. And yeah, it's a recession, but to really think about it, these are the numbers which happened almost 6 months back, because it was January to March, then March to June. We are in the last month of the third quarter.
Yeah.
Probably things have changed, so.
Do you think they've changed for the better?
It should, if you check our numbers, if you check the manufacturing numbers which were coming out, the mining data which have been coming out, the retail sales, we're not saying they're going to shoot out the lights, but at least it shows that we've turned the corner. And I think what's more important, more than anything, is the confidence. If investor sentiment starts to improve, if business confidence starts to improve, and so far we've seen the government, they've tried this and that, but generally I don't think it's as bad as it was. But we were too excited come November, December last year. Then reality started kicking in around beginning of the year. Hence, we saw the confidence going down. So I think things have just normalized, after
growth for the year, growth figure for the year.
Just around under 1%. I don't think we'll get anything more than 1.3%.
Sure. Still a bad picture. Trade issues out of the United States. I spoke about that not so long ago. You had the old NAFTA deal being signed, but not Canada included in that. At the same time, you still have China and that trade war. A lot still happening out in the US and still affecting South Africa.
By all means, and Donald, the way it seems, he's not caring too much about Canada. He's happy with Mexico. And if Canada gets to join, it's okay. But for him, I think it will be best to get Canada, because if it's only Mexico, he'll need almost more than 60% of the votes for the Congress to pass it. Sure. But if he's got Canada as well, then 50% or so. But yes, that's still another big elephant. And tomorrow is the deadline when it comes to those public comments about those proposed tariffs for China.
We never know what's going to happen with Donald Trump. Let's get back onto Steinhoff, if possible, as well, very quickly. Marcus Jooste appearing in Parliament there, not really giving any sufficient answers. Did we expect anything else from him?
Not at all. I think maybe it's a question of shareholders just taking it upon themselves, go and get the right investigators, do the right forensic. Sure. Because even the price waters thing has been issued by the company which asked them to do it. We're not going to get any answers up until we get people who can ask the right questions and do the right investigation, or else we're just wasting our time. And more importantly, pensioners have lost their money.
Yeah. Clearly it sends a picture, though, of what corporate governance in South Africa looks like.
It does, but now it affects South Africa and also in Europe, because Steinhoff is an international company.
Yeah. Certainly. Makwe Masilela, appreciate your time this afternoon as well, as we unpack just how the markets performed. Makwe Masilela from Makwe Fund Managers. More business news coming up right after this. Do stay tuned.